Sean's question is, should a financial mutant consider rebalancing more when they are in step 7 of the FOO? Does it matter when or why you should rebalance? And I kind of like that he framed this about like where in the FOO should you start to consider this. What do you guys think about that?
So here's what I think is really interesting about rebalancing that we did not talk about in the actual show that I think is so important. All of us, when it comes to investing, we are emotional, right? You hear Warren Buffett, he talks about the fear thing and the greed thing, and it's really, really difficult when it comes to making decisions that we end up getting emotional about it. Maybe we bought that S&P and we just happened to buy it during the last downturn, and boy, has it done really, really well, and it's been so good to us, and it's driving our performance, and the thought of rebalancing and selling it just, it gets angsty, and maybe it has a little bit more to go. So maybe I won't rebalance this month, I'll do it next month, and maybe I'll push it off, and maybe I'll push it off, and maybe I'll push it off. We all fall victim to that. If you're someone who invests in individual stocks, you maybe know this more than ever because you get married to those stocks that you buy. The problem, Sean, I think about with going through this mindset of, okay, now that I'm in step 7, now that I'm saving more, now that I'm doing more, should I be more active in my portfolio? I don't know, Brian, that I would agree that activity inside of a portfolio equates to results inside of a portfolio. You should be thinking about the quality of the decisions you make, not the quantity of the decisions you're making. So just because you're in step 7, just because you're hyper-accumulating, just because your portfolio has gotten bigger, I don't think means that you ought to rebalance more. I would even argue if you are in step 7 and you are someone who's saving 25% of your gross income, you are naturally able to rebalance your portfolio with your automatic purchases that are happening every month. You get to adjust the new money flowing in to make sure that your portfolio stays in balance. So I don't think you should do it more just because you're further along in the FOO.
I love it when we disagree on
stuff.
My because it just gives a great stark contrast. But you're not wrong, but let me tell you what something I think that Sean is hitting at that we need to share with the audience. What I love about Sean sharing, he combined, because remember, we talked about rebalancing. Rebalancing is an automatic creator of some of the activities that can make you better at wealth building. And Sean brought in that he's at step 7 of the financial order of operations, which is the hyperaccumulation. Step 7 is also where we spend a lot of time talking about the 3 buckets of, meaning you have your after-tax money, you have your pre-tax money, and you, of course, have your tax-free bucket. Because what you're doing with these 3 buckets is that you will spend those differently in retirement. They all come out different ways. But here's what I think you need to take into account, and this is where rebalancing comes in. Tax location is because think about your after-tax money. That should be money that's where you go keep your cash and equivalents. That's where you go keep your tax favored, like your dividend holdings, your capital growth assets, so you can get those lower capital gains rates. All that stuff fits in there. Your tax deferred. This is where your employer match, I can say that now until the rule changes, but this is where your employer match lies. You can put your bonds and your conservative stuff that's all going to pay out at ordinary income tax rates. You'll want to put that. And then your tax-free is your Roth, where you want to stick it to the man legally as best you can. So you want to put growth assets in those type of holdings. If you're rebalancing, this is something that, just like we talked about, glide path of your risk profile changing. We're talking about taxes. This is one more element that we could have easily added to the content calendar to discuss on this. Is that I do think step 7 probably is going to create a trigger point for rebalancing. But to bring it back so that this is Seinfeld-esque to where it still applies to what you are, everything I just said starts getting so complicated. It's not simple. That this is where I love that it kind of fulfills the abundance cycle. And this is stuff that, since you're going to probably coordinate this with tax rebalancing, with Roth conversion strategies, with cash flow and retirement, there's a lot of moving parts. And that's why I love that we get to do what we do for a living.